What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated, unified WBC, IBF, welterweight world champion superstar boxer who is widely considered by many to be top 3 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and Errol "The Truth" Spence Jr., superstar boxer, is being advised by an eye specialist that states that the injury Errol Spence suffered that forced him to be pulled from and pull out the highly anticipated showdown with legendary 8th division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer Manny Pacquiao this upcoming Saturday night. He suffered a torn retina, a tear in his retina. Then it was later announced that it was a detachment of the retina, a broken retina. And the doctor, he goes in and he explains that a torn retina, a tear in the retina, could eventually lead because of the fluid buildup on the retina and how thin the retina walls are. The fluid buildup from the front and the back of the retina can cause it to detach. So he states that because it's now detached, he says that, today's time with science and medicine, today's time, that it's a multiple different ways you can approach it to do surgeries to heal it. He stated, but in this case, he would advise Errol Spence to retire. He said he would strongly consider having a conversation with Errol Spence to urge him to retire. He says because this is an injury that can later easily reoccur, because now you already suffered the first initial injury that makes you susceptible for it to reoccur easily in the future. He also debunks the fact that the car accident that took place back in 2019, the horrific car accident that Errol Spence suffered back in 2019, just 12 days after unifying the titles against 2-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter, has absolutely nothing to do with it. He unified the titles against Shawn Porter September 28th of 2019. He suffered the horrific car accident October 10th of 2019. So the surgeon, the specialist, he's stating that it absolutely has nothing to do with that car accident. It's too far apart. He says this happens on a normal basis with your everyday normal people that aren't even in combat sports or suffered a horrific car accident. He says, and so many people dismiss it and don't even understand what they're going through. So he stated that Errol Spence, in his case, and he's also made it clear that he's not particularly on this. He hasn't performed the surgery. He's not on the team that performed the surgery. So he stated that in Errol Spence's case, from the information that he's privy to, that Errol Spence had no symptoms. Okay? So that in itself debunks the notion that Errol Spence was avoiding Manny Pacquiao, thus the reason why he pulled out the fight. He says Errol Spence had no symptoms in this case, as many people in his situation that are athletes of that magnitude, you ignore it. So he says that you may see a black floaty here and there, and you could ask an athlete of a high caliber athlete of Errol Spence's status, did you have any symptoms? And you go over the symptoms, and he states that you can ask them, and they'll say, oh yeah, I did see black floaties a week ago. He says, but they don't correlate it with this injury, so they ignore it. Thus the reason why Errol Spence chose to petition, essentially, the doctor's orders, right? Because the initial doctor, when he was doing his pre-fight routine checkup, and this was found because they go through a stringent checkup, right? They check every single thing because the sport of boxing in itself is very dangerous. So Errol Spence, 27 wins, no losses, no draws, 21 big wins by way of knockout, 31 years of age, stands at 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach, is a high-profile fighter, right? And this just goes to show the pride of Errol Spence, because he went and got 2 more opinions, and they told him he needed immediate surgery. And as this doctor put it, this is the sport of boxing that's a very dangerous sport in itself. Every time you step through the ropes, you're putting your life on the line. So with that said, Errol Spence was lucky that this surgeon, he was lucky that this particular doctor did all their due diligence and a full checkup from head to toe, because Errol Spence had no symptoms. And this could have resulted in loss of sight for Errol Spence if he could have continued on. And as the doctor put it, there's still a chance, because of the profession that he's in, that this could easily reoccur. And if he was his patient, he would simply urge him to retire. But we saw other athletes suffer this injury. We saw Sugar Ray Leonard suffer this injury. He came back and fought Marvelous Marvin Hagler, a Hall of Fame legend icon in the sport of boxing, the greatest middleweight of all time. Okay? And Sugar Ray Leonard, icon in his own right. We saw this occur with Sugar Ray Leonard. And Sugar Ray Leonard, he came back and he performed well. He didn't have any serious effects. In today's time, Sugar Ray Leonard is just fine. So there's Sugar Ray Leonard, but then there's Abner Mares. As of recently, Abner Mares suffered the same similar injury ahead of his showdown with superstar boxer Gervonta Tank Davis, who's undefeated 3-division world champion, and he had to pull out of the fight, and Abner Mares hasn't fought since. Okay, that was years ago. Abner Mares is yet to get in the ring. Okay, and you look at Abner Mares, clearly his eye doesn't look the same. It doesn't look normal. Okay, and so with that said, you know, we see there's fighters that come back, and we see there's fighters that don't. So there's a multiple of different examples dealing with this situation. But this particular doctor is saying that, you know, Errol Spence, he would urge him to retire, and he stated that it had absolutely nothing to do with the car accident. And he also states that, you know, this is not on Errol Spence. This was just an applaud for the doctor who caught this, because Errol Spence wasn't showing, or at least wasn't complaining of any symptoms. So Errol Spence, he seeked out 2 more opinions just to try to stage the fight, but the Las Vegas, Nevada Boxing Commission wouldn't sanction it against the doctor's orders. Okay, so the doctor's orders told Errol Spence that he needed emergency surgery immediately, which Errol Spence, according to reports, had been in Las Vegas at the time, I guess, preparing for this fight, and he had to relocate back home to Texas and have immediate surgery, which was, according to the doctor, they believe it was a success. Okay, and Errol Spence, he stated, I'll be back soon, been through worse. So this is a testament to everybody that's claiming Errol Spence was avoiding Manny Pacquiao because he was struggling in training camp. He didn't even have symptoms. He didn't even know this was there for him to pull out, for him to use that as an excuse not to fight Manny Pacquiao. He didn't even know it was even a thing. So this lets you know that Errol Spence wanted this fight, and Errol Spence truly was confident that he gonna win this fight. It's the biggest payday of his career. It's a legacy fight, the biggest fight of his career. It's a crossover fight for Errol Spence and his legacy in the superstardom, not just in the sport of boxing, but into a regular household, because Manny Pacquiao, he carries a lot of weight. He carries a lot of casual fans that just watch Manny Pacquiao simply because it's Manny Pacquiao. So this is a chance for Errol Spence to introduce himself to that demographic of fans as well. So Errol Spence completely did not look to pull out of this fight. He wasn't avoiding Manny Pacquiao, and the doctor clearly states he had no symptoms. He wasn't bothered, and if he did, they weren't serious enough for him to complain about it. And so he had no idea, and it was a testament to the doctor that caught this, because this could have affected his sight and his life moving forward. And he still believes that Errol Spence should call it quits. Now, the doctor did state that Errol Spence could be out for 4 months because it went from a tear to a broken, detached retina. He says because of the fluid. So he says it could have been a shorter period of time if it was just simply the tear, but because it was a broken, detached retina now, right, that causes a longer recovery period. And so Errol Spence, he stated, he didn't give a time frame, but he said, I'll be back soon. So this doctor is saying this is usually about a 4-month period of recovery time when you're dealing with a situation, a serious eye injury such as this. So again, Errol Spence wants this fight. Manny Pacquiao, you're going to get a lot of people saying Manny Pacquiao is going to retire. Manny Pacquiao says he don't know what he's going to do moving forward. But I'm almost certain that Manny Pacquiao does not want to end his career. And this is no slight to Cuban star boxer who's the WBA super champion in Yordenis Ugas. But Yordenis Ugas was appointed the WBA title because Manny Pacquiao's inactivity after he beat former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman in July of 2019. So with that said, right, Manny Pacquiao does not want to end his career on that note. Should he be victorious on Saturday against Yordenis Ugas? That's not what he's looking to do. Okay, and Manny Pacquiao wants to fight the best fighters out there. He stated, as he told me yesterday, he wants Terrence Crawford. He wants Errol Spence Jr. Those are the fights that he wants. He wanted the Terrence Crawford fight, but things occurred that prevented the fight from happening. So with that said, you know, I don't think Manny Pacquiao be victorious against Yordenis Ugas and then call it a career. I think Manny Pacquiao wants to end it on a serious high note, beating one of the best young fighters of this generation, and then walk off into the sunset. So, Errol Spence, he says he'll be back soon. 4-month period, they said recovery time. Then you got to give him another 2 to 3 months, I would say, for training and to get back in the groove of things, because I'm sure he can't have any contact. You know, he has to be careful with just he can't even hit the heavy bag because he can't have any impact on that area and no jolting. So I'm sure he has to take it as light as possible. You know, so with that said, you say in 4 months, we are already in August, so you say September, October, November, December, that's 4 months. He'll probably be back March, okay? So this kind of pushes back, you know, the situation with Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, which is the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. And, you know, maybe Manny Pacquiao fights Terrence Crawford before the year's up, beats Yordenis Ugas and finds a way to fight Terrence Crawford before the year's up. And then should Terrence Crawford, I would favor Terrence Crawford to beat Manny Pacquiao. He beats him. He's unified now, WBA, WBO champion. Errol Spence gets back in the groove of things. I would expect Errol Spence to have a tune-up fight to make sure that eye is fully recovered and fully healthy. And then I expect Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence to fight possibly in the summer of 2022. So Errol Spence is no way, no form, no shape is going to call it quits. But the doctor's urging him, saying that if he was his client, he would urge Errol Spence to call it a career. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Bumgarner, you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV. Wow.